And we get to introduce Doug Scott Murphy. A lot of people know him as Doug Scott. He started out many of the rivers here in New Mexico. He was one of the first commercial rafters. He used to hire Cisco Guevara all the time. I'm sure he'll mention more about that, but he's been rafting New Mexico rivers since the 70s, and other rivers, the Arkansas, even rivers down in Texas. Doug has written some of the first river guides for New Mexico, including a great flyer handout pamphlet type thing for the Mama Chama section, or the Upper Chama as Doug refers to it, which is one of my favorite sections. He's also got one of the very early books about New Mexico rivers, listing many other sections that are popular and some not so popular that many people don't boat because they don't know enough about it. So Doug's a wealth of knowledge. He's also an artist, is how he makes his living. I've seen some of his sculptures in white marble. He's probably got works in the museums up in Washington and other places like that, but I'll let him speak more about that. He's also got a passion for hiking and has websites about all the waterfalls in New Mexico and how he's cataloged those. Also slot canyons in New Mexico, and he's still very active. So I aspire to keep up with him one of these days, not just paddling with him, but hiking with him as well. So without further ado, I'll introduce Mr. Doug Scott Murphy.
I thought my camera was working on my computer, but it must not be, because it looks like that I can't be seen, which it suits me just fine. There we go. Well, I don't know where to really start here, but as a young child, I was born in Portland, Oregon, and raised my early years in Oregon before then moving to 1 year in California. But then by the time I was in high school, I was always in New Mexico. But the game department, I mean, the tourist department for the state of New Mexico would get inquiries in the mail of people saying that they wanted to float from Alamosa to El Paso the last 2 days of March and stuff like that. And the tourist department didn't know what to do. So they just started sending all that stuff to me. And so I typed up kind of a little, I guess you'd say a leaflet of 8.5 by 11 sheets and paper. And this was the cover. One of my guides, Ken Winslow, had shot a picture of me kayaking the Red River Confluence Rapid. So we used that on the front. And this would have been first published in 1972. I began running rivers in the late 60s, and 72 was my first year for doing commercial river running in New Mexico. But 72 happened to be a year where there was very little water. So, and besides that, I was a new company, and I was 20 years old, and I didn't know much about what I was doing. So I guess it was good that there wasn't much water. But then 73 came, and it was a very wonderful high water year. The Lower Taos Box stayed flowing over 1,000 into August. And it was just a very, very special year. And we started doing a lot more commercial runs. Like Scott mentioned, Francisco Guevara used to work for me. And first it was a buddy of his, Steve Bergson, and Dave Moulton, and Roy Newton, and several of the Los Alamos boaters from Stretch Fretwell's scout group worked for me. And but when I first hired Cisco Guevara, he could work during the week for me, but he couldn't work on weekends. And it turned out that he was having to serve some jail time on the weekends. And so he could work guide weekdays for me, but he couldn't do Saturday and Sunday because he was in jail for stealing a police car. Evidently, he and a friend got stopped in Los Alamos, and the policeman got out of his car and left it running. And so Cisco jumped in and had some nice driving around the town of Los Alamos, being chased by the police. And it was kind of interesting, he said, because he could hear on the radio where they were trying to box him off at, and he would just turn down a different road and stay away from them. And finally, he just parked the car and took off running. And they wouldn't have known it was him, except for some other people kind of squealed on him. So anyway, he worked for me during the week, but not on weekends whenever he first started. I don't know if he likes that story or not, but I do. And then Mountains and Rivers used to be a outdoor store in Albuquerque across the street from University of New Mexico. Actually bought my New Mexico River notes from me for $5. And they published this book, I think in 1979 or 78, somewhere along in there. I'm not really very proud of this book because I was 19 years old whenever I was writing it, and I'm still not a very good writer, but I certainly wasn't then. But the picture was just a picture they had from, I think it was West Virginia, the Gully River in West Virginia, that it was on the cover of New Mexico River Notes. So then would have been, I think maybe like 1977, I went into Walgreens in Walmart shopping, Winrock Shopping Center, and I bought some toothpaste. And I was walking out of the store next to the magazine rack, just kind of glancing over it, and I saw a picture of me on River World magazine on the front cover. And so I had to go back through the cash register again and buy the magazine. And I told the lady that was me. And there's a couple of things I want to kind of point out here. I'm going to enlarge this. I guess you all can see this. My oarlocks, and I don't know if you can see my arrow or not here, but I had homemade frames.
Hey Doug, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but I think we're still on the first slide. So they're not advancing on what you're sharing.
Okay. So now we should have a canoe on the picture, New Mexico River Notes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, I think
We
now
do.
I stopped that first one and started this one. This was the second book that Mountains and Rivers published. It was the same words. That first one I did kind of metamorphed into different things. I would add a little bit every year to it. And I would just ask people to send me $5 or something like that, you know, and I think, I don't know that I ever had anyone not send the money. They would send the money, and then Mountains and Rivers published this book and sold it for a while. And then here was the magazine cover. Is that showing up, a River World magazine?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's when I was buying toothpaste in Walmart in like 1978 or something like that, 77. And I mean, at Walgreens, and I walked by the magazines and I saw this picture of me in the magazine rack. So I went through the counter again and bought it. I'm going to enlarge this. Did that enlarge on your screen?
Yes,
Okay. And you can see my arrow?
yes. With your
Okay.
oarlocks?
Yeah, so there's my oarlock, and this gray keeper on the oarlock was duct tape and rocks. I would pick up rocks on the river bank before we set in with the people, and I would wrap duct tape around it to keep my oars from sliding out through my oarlocks. And this was a picture of Powerline Falls. And a few days after I bought the magazine, I got a call from Alan Kenish, photographer in Santa Fe, and said, be sure and buy a copy of River World magazine. You're on the front cover. Well, it's hard to believe that my life jacket isn't even buttoned up. And of course, nobody's wearing helmets and stuff. And I'm not proud of the fact that I didn't have my life jacket buckled and zipped up, but that certainly wouldn't make the cover of a magazine today. You know, that kind of behavior, but it did back then. Now, I really am the most involved and excited about my river exploration and my mapping and stuff like this. I run some outdoor websites, like Scott mentioned. I have one that you can Google New Mexico waterfalls, and it has hundreds of waterfalls with maps and descriptions and photographs of how to hike in to see the waterfalls. I started another one of slot canyons, and I have a third one now of natural arches in New Mexico. And I'm thinking about putting one together for rivers. What the deal is Taos Net, the web provider in Taos, gives me free web service. And so there wouldn't be any websites if I had to pay for it. But because it's free, I like to post information that is like a public service, and I like to share what I have learned. Now, this particular map here is the Chama River above the town of Chama. Oops, I lost it. There we go. I don't know if you can see this Edward Sargent Wildlife Area. Now, Lobato Gorge, the train station is called Lobato there, and that was the original Hispanic settlers from the families came up north out of Santa Fe and settled way back before white man even came, hardly. And so that's where the name Lobato came from. It was the Lobato family that first settled up in the upper Chama River above the town of today of Chama. And the Lobo Ranch that now is just private land that makes it hard on people trying to kayak the Chama River at the state line of Colorado through the Lobato Gorge. They have no trespassing signs, and they're very, very against whitewater boating there. But the original people that, well, I say the original, the people that owned it whenever I was first going up there embraced the boaters and would help us. In Colorado Creeks and Rivers book that I have, I guess I should have had a picture of that on there too, but it's a very popular book, river guide book of Colorado called Colorado Creeks and Rivers. They have a page on what I'm calling the Lobato Gorge, and I can't remember what they called it, but the guest ranch actually gave them a ride in a golf cart down to kayak the river. But then they sold to a group of Santa Fe business people that own that area now, and they don't let any guests come, and they're very, very much against river running there. I'm not sure how that's all going to go and get opened up through our access ruling and stuff. But anyway, I look forward to it. But it is kind of interesting that there's a yellow line here on my map, and I'm planning on putting some of this stuff, getting some of this stuff public. I want to do some better maps. I did help Paul Bauer with his maps on the Chama River guidebook, the new book, which I really like and really good, but his maps aren't very detailed, and I want to provide a map that's more detailed. I actually have an appointment coming up where I'm meeting with the surveyor of New Mexico Game and Fish Department. And he has gone through and done a new survey, and a lot of places, both sides of the Chama River, north of the town of Chama, is owned by the state of New Mexico, the Edward Sargent Wildlife Area. But there's private land between the Sargent boundary and the highway. And so when you're driving on the highway up there, it looks like the whole thing is private, but the truth is it's not. Most of it is public, but you can't cross the private land getting to the river. And so I don't know, the access is maybe going to be a little bit tough on that. I'm actually doing quite a few maps and stuff here. Let me see if I can change on some other things here. Okay, now you should be looking at a picture of the upper Pecos River below the town of Cowles, New Mexico.
Do you know what the flow was at that time?
Yeah, it was like 65, which is really quite low. But I really enjoy doing low water paddling, because then I can see the canyon better. When it's high water, the rapids are great, but the sightseeing is kind of tough. And so I like it now that I'm in my 70s. I would rather go during really low water, even if it means that I have to step out and lift my boat off some rocks, because then I can enjoy the scenery. And so people say that the river needs to be 200 CFS to navigate. Well, I navigate it fine at 50 and 60. But anyway, I'll just kind of go through some pictures. There's a man named Rick Gustafson, that's my neighbor here in White Rock, and he and I do a lot of these obscure places together, paddling. I'm looking forward to maybe having some of the bad fences moved out of the Pecos. Now here's a picture of me in a pink inflatable kayak with the red helmet. And this is the crux rapid of that upper gorge. It's very narrow with rocks on both sides, and but it's just a very, very pleasant run. There is a lot of wood in the river, and I'm hoping some of us can go down and cut some of that out, maybe in the fall. The Pecos River has been so high that it would make moving wood pretty dangerous right now. So anyway, it's a nice little rapid there, nice little canyon. I don't know if any of you recognize this picture.
Yes,
Oh.
it's the Brazos Cliffs.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
And I don't know, perhaps the legalities weren't quite what they should have been, but I did have a nice hike down through there. I'm amazed how much water is in the river, even in the fall. Has anyone in this group ever kayaked through there? The Brazos Box?
More people run from Corkins Lodge down to the Rio Chama. That's a little more accessible and legal.
Well, this is a waterfall that I'm not sure flows. It probably doesn't flow all the time, but it flows sometimes. And it's between Cooper's Ranch, their Elvado Ranch, where you set in at the Chama, upstream, between there and the dam. There's a side canyon comes in that's called Cooper Canyon. But I've talked with Dave Cooper, and that Cooper was a different Cooper than his father, Carl. And it's got a couple nice waterfalls on it that may only run when Elvado is full of water. It might be seepage through the rock layers that causes the waterfall to run. But for this picture, I parked up near the dam and carried my canoe down to the river, and then kayaked or canoed in under the waterfall with my umbrella for a picture of the waterfall dropping into the Chama River. Now here's a picture of the Seeping Falls that's up Aragon Canyon in the on the Chama River. You can walk about a half mile above the Chama River on up Aragon Canyon, and there's a seeping waterfall just below the Aragon Spring. It's a nice walk up there, but it rarely flows very much. And there's the dinosaur tracks. I'm sure most people have learned about the dinosaur tracks and know how to go up there, a dark canyon, to see the dinosaur tracks.
They're all covered up with sand now.
Are they? This year they're covered with sand. Yeah, this picture was taken a year ago, a little over a year ago, and it was more covered than when I first went up there back in the early 70s. There was big prints and little prints and cousins and aunts and uncles and grandpas and tracks going every direction. But it's I guess it's been silting in and getting less now. They tell me that it's Allosaurus tracks.
Where is that? On Chomp
It's up Dark Canyon.
Dark Canyon.
Yeah, the Dark Canyon is the main rapid above the monastery, kind of a long rapid. It's maybe a low class 3 or high class 2 or something. But then there's houses down below a few houses down below the rapid, but you can park above the rapid, and there's a trail that goes right to the dinosaur tracks, and they are in the bottom of the canyon. When you're walking up the trail from the river, you just keep going until you come to bedrock at the bottom of the creek. And the first bedrock you come to has the dinosaur tracks in it. This actually was with Paul Barrer's group when we were making the maps and stuff. Now I'm kind of helter-skelter here a little bit, but I'll just kind of share some information with you. I've published several books, and there can be purchased through Amazon. This one is called New Mexico Waterfalls Handbook. And then there's one, New Mexico Slot Canyons, which we have a lot of wonderful slot canyons. New Mexico Waterfalls. These books are all available through Amazon. And Taos Waterfalls. And the Taos Mountains. Now, I should go through some of my internet presence. I'll try to make sure that you guys can see. How about this page now? Can you guys see this page?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're still doing good on time. We've still got about 45 minutes.
Okay. Now this is my books listed on my website here, but I really don't sell them anymore. I really should take this down. It just isn't worth my time and trouble, and people purchase them on Amazon. But I do want to show you my websites. Like, here's my main website here. It's called New Mexico Waterfalls. Is that page showing up now for you? New Mexico Waterfalls?
Yes.
Okay. I'll kind of take you through this page here. That's the Brazos Cliffs Falls right there that only flows during the month of May. But anyway, I have the state. The state of New Mexico here is numbered and lettered, and then the falls are according to the coordinates of the number and letter. And so like down here, A5 and A6 and A6 and A7, they can be located on the map. But we start, like I'll click on Latier Falls, and between lake number 3 and lake number 4 of Latier Lakes is a beautiful waterfall, probably 50 feet high or so. And oh yeah. So on these websites, I have the name of the falls and pictures of the falls. And then I have a map.
Doug, I think that's how you and I first started conversation is I've got a picture on your website that you asked for Pink
Yeah.
Palisades or something. That's how we first met.
Yeah, I think so. Now, can you see this map?
Yes.
Yeah, the Latier Lakes are private, but it's a really nice place. I think New Mexicans should go there sometime. 9 lakes are all in a string, and it's a really beautiful place. And I think it's like $20 a car or something to go up there. It's a very beautiful private park available to the public in New Mexico. So a person just can look through there's just hundreds of falls. Like for instance, I'll click on Timberline Falls in the Wheeler Peak Wilderness area up the South Fork of the Rio Hondo. And so here's this picture of what we call Timberline Falls. And here's a 40-foot Douglas fir tree right here. And it's a nice big high 100-foot high waterfall that flows down there. But there's just lots of waterfalls in New Mexico. And here's a map. And the Timberline Falls is down here in the bottom center of the map. Taos East is the access point for accessing the South Fork of the Rio Hondo. But I have a lot of other falls, Hondo Falls here and Slide Falls. And so I don't know if this stuff is interest to you, but it's interesting to me. And then I have other websites that like the Slot Canyons website, New Mexico Slot Canyons. And I'd gone on one of those New Mexico outdoor websites. I can't remember which one, but it said that there was only one slot canyon in New Mexico, and I have like 100 on my site here. And there again, I have the state numbered and lettered, and then a list of the slot canyons. The largest collection of slot canyons, there's about 20 of them in the Chama Canyon Wilderness. The biggest one we call Big Canyon, and it has 3.5 miles of continuous narrows. But you can see it's quite an impressive slot canyon. Does that picture show up good for you there?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's crazy. Big Canyon, Slot Canyon has got 3.5 miles of continuous narrows, and it's a very, very special slot canyon. So this page has that one main photo at the top, but then it says scroll down for more photos. And scrolling down, there's a written description. There's a map. There's Big Canyon. The red parts, the red lines are the slot canyon portions of the canyons. But it's really quite a special canyon. There's one place where we let ourselves down from a log that's a knotted rope that we let ourselves down on. It's not worth setting up a rappel for. It's about a 12-foot drop. But anyway, the slot canyons are quite something. If you can imagine walking down through this area here, those would be big ponderosas and Douglas fir trees. I mean, it's a big solid rock slot canyon. It's a natural arch, chalk stone. So I don't know, that it just would be, here's some of the side canyons are alabaster. And they're so narrow that we have to turn sideways to even fit through the slot canyons. Take your pack off and turn sideways. Here's a deep, narrow slot portion of alabaster slot canyon. And that's all in that one we call Big Canyon. Then there's a place we call the tunnels that has caved in, and you can walk through the tunnels without bumping your head. And then there's a land bridge on Big Canyon, and this is my son here underneath this land bridge, and the land bridge has trees growing on it. So there's just a lot of interesting things here. So that's my Slot Canyon website. And then I have a New Mexico Natural Arches website. And it just kind of scrolls through the natural arches. This first one, I start up north on the Colorado line. Cox Canyon is just barely in New Mexico from Colorado.
Top of Cedar Hill area.
Yeah. So then I just kind of go down through and show a lot of the different natural arches. Arch rock's about 30 feet both directions, and it's really a natural bridge because it has a water course that runs underneath it. And that's in a canyon near Aztec called Arch Rock Canyon. Arch Rock. But there's a very exciting one here. That's El Salto Falls at Taos has a natural arch in there too. But Snake Bridge, maybe some of you are familiar with Snake Bridge. It's on the Navajo, but it's one of the top 20 worldwide longest spans, over 200 feet long. And it involves having a Navajo guide, and my guide that takes me in doesn't want his name mentioned, and he's not for hire. So I don't know how to tell people how to get guides to go in, but the reservation is closed with COVID anyway. But that's quite an impressive natural arch, over 200-foot span. So anyway, I like to share this stuff. Here's an arch we call Golondrina Arch that's up above the monastery, and you can walk through there without bumping your head. So I don't know, maybe some people might want to ask me some questions or something. I really not very organized here. Oh, this is an interesting arch that I found by Ojo Caliente. The locals call it Ventana del Cielo, or the window of the sky. It's about a 40-foot span that's 400 feet overhead. And it's got a slot canyon right by it too. Oh, and then this is the arch by Abiquiu. It's a pretty nice arch.
This is really amazing. You've gone all over the state in detail. I am blown away by your research.
Well, I'm kind of addicted to exploring, and I cover way down in the Gila and stuff too. In fact, I'll show you a really nice arch down there in the Gila. Actually, a friend of mine found it. Yeah, here it is. Saccatone arch, and it spans about 75 feet.
Wow.
Pretty nice arch.
This is really cool to know about you and your research and all your books. I'm definitely them.
Well, thank you. And because my website is provided for me for free, this information can be public, but it wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for TaosNet giving me the internet presence. And so I want to get some maps, river maps that are more accurate. And I'm meeting with the Game and Fish and going to look at some new surveys and see if we can figure out some better access points. For instance, like Upper Chama Canyon is such a wonderful canyon, but the logistics are kind of hard.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if we can interact with the game department, it's pretty much all state land up there. There's very little private land. At the first, there's private land, but then as soon as the state land starts happening, it's just all state land in there. Can anyone tell me about the Bureau of Reclamation having the area below Heron Dam closed? They're built a new footbridge down there, and I noticed that the old footbridge is still standing.
Yeah, the reason they quit using that old footbridge is the wooden steps going down the rimrock had been broken, and they never did repair those for many years. So they put in a new metal bridge just upstream of the outlet, the outflow of Heron into the Rio Chama.
And they still keep that area closed. Makes me feel kind of funny when we paddled through there. Even just a few days ago, I was paddling through there, and it just seems strange that the Bureau of Reclamation has the area closed. I mean, they're not doing.
Yeah, when the old trail closed, they used to discourage foot traffic on the road down to the bottom of the dam, the spillway. But now that road is actually going to be their egress down to that new bridge. So that's going to be incorporated as part of their trail system to go from Heron Lake across the river down into Elvado Lake State Park.
Yeah, that's a nice trail. I've actually walked that some too, besides floating through there. But it seems to me like that it should be open right now and for people to be in there, but it just remains closed even though nobody's working on it.
I haven't seen it closed. I am aware that they used to close like the gate to the north boat ramp at Elvado. They wouldn't open that until May 15th when the state park opened. We have had some varying success of getting that gate open when the flow starts, because that is the main takeout point for the upper Mama Chama section.
Yeah.
But I've never had any problems with gates being closed at that Fisherman's Bridge parking area. There is a gate there, but I don't know if I've ever seen it closed except for during COVID.
Oh yeah, well,
So
it's
the
closed.
last, one of the rangers told me that it was closed because they hadn't finished the trail along the river to go back and join up with the trail heading down to Elvado. But that was last year. I'm surprised they still have it closed, but
Yeah, the gates are
because
closed
that bridge has been in there for a while now.
Yeah, it seems like that it's finished. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I said. And he said, well, it's because the trail is not the from where the new bridge crosses the river down to where the old bridge crossed the river. They're putting a trail along the river, and he said that's why it was closed, because that trail hadn't been constructed yet.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's only like quarter mile or something like that. Yeah.
It's not very far.
Yeah.
Doug, you don't happen to have any pictures of the Upper Chama flyer that you created, do you? I've got some scanned files somewhere, but not handy.
I didn't quite understand your question. The fire where?
Well, you have a flyer that you wrote up for the Upper Chama, the Mama Chama.
Oh, yeah. And you know, the unfortunate thing is that I lost the master. When we left Taos and moved to Los Alamos, somehow the master didn't make the move. Let's see.
We had one of those flyers provided to us by Cicely Frawley, used to be a park ranger up at El Vado. And
Oh,
she loaned me her copy. You probably know her well. But we scanned that and made some copies of it.
oh,
But
good.
I thought you might have a better quality copy of it.
I don't. Yeah, I don't really. This is as good a quality as I have, and it's not very good quality. It's unfortunate that I lost my. I actually got injured and couldn't work for a while. I got carpal tunnel and couldn't hold my carving tools, and so I was bored to death. And I just made this flyer up one time because I like to do maps and stuff.
You mentioned your carving at some point too. I'd like you to show a couple pictures of some of your works.
Oh, okay. So my website would be Doug Scott Art. This is my homepage here. And I spent my main career doing art to feed my family. My wife and I ran an art gallery on the Taos Plaza for years, and it only showed my art and no one else. It was called Doug Scott Showroom. And this is like a marble sculpture of mine.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you. This is some stuff I'm doing today. I've just recently finished this sculpture and this one here.
You got to tell us about your buffalo too.
Oh, yeah. Then here's some of my paintings. I do a lot of horses. I call this bottom one here, I call it Icy Horses.
They're beautiful.
Well, thank you. So let's see, archives, public sculpture. Okay, here's a larger than life buffalo that I sculpted in brown marble from Berlin, New Mexico, big marble quarry there. And that's on display at Canyon, Texas, the West Texas Buffaloes. It's in the center of their campus. This actually was before it was done. The back legs weren't even carved yet. But during the transporting of the piece, I left the back legs bulky. Boy, it's something I don't even have a deal. Let's see.
Is that your marble?
Yeah.
Wow. And you get it in New Mexico?
Yes.
Shoot. Didn't know. Look at that.
Is that video showing very well?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Carol, come here.
That was magic. How did you know that buffalo was hiding in that rock there, Doug? Doug, where did you construct that? Where did you work on that? It must have
In-
taken a long time.
Taos Canyon. I didn't get it finished before winter. Between Angel Fire and Taos.
Much more inspirational place to carve on that than down in Berlin.
Yeah.
Doug, somebody's asked how much that buffalo weighs.
It was 72,000 pound block. But by the time I was done, it was half of that, 36,000 pounds.
Don't you have the biggest sculpture on record or something?
That would be this would be the largest block of marble ever sculpted in America. I think ancient Greece and Egypt and Rome have me beat, but in America, I think this was the largest. So let's see, here's Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. I was commissioned to sculpt them in white marble.
Is this one quicker than the buffalo?
Yeah.
Do you know where those are on display now?
Yeah, when the Roy Rogers Museum closed, a museum in Houston bought it, and it's on display in Houston now. Let's see, I could show a real quick one here. There we go.
We've got just over 10 minutes left.
This is my son and I on the middle box.
That was a chore carrying the canoes down.
Yeah, yeah, they slide down the trail pretty easy though.
What do you do with the switchbacks?
Well, the trail we went in on was the old miners trail, didn't have any switchbacks, and it
Oh,
just,
okay. Haven't been down that one.
That's the one down off the west side.
Didn't you do that, Scott, last year?
Yeah, I did it a couple times. We did an overnight down there one time. Joel Gay and Tom Cohen and myself and my buddy Phil. Yeah, I've seen some of Doug's videos of him running the canoe through Conejos. Wrap it up on the Conejos. Joey's asking about the Creed box and if you've run that up there.
I just love running an open canoe.
We had a fella on the Browns Canyon running a open canoe. He had flotation in it, but
My son likes to run the canoe with a kayak paddle, but I like to run with a single blade.
they currently have Taos or John Dunn Bridge closed for about 8 days. They're working on the bridge and the roadway right there. Joey Coburn has posted that on our Facebook announcements.
I saw that, but I'm sad that they blocked the road between John Dunn Bridge and the Miners Trail.
Yeah,
That
that
looks like-
west,
that
that
looks-
west side road had a rock slide somewhere up that hillside, so it's been closed for a year or two.
Yeah, and I don't suppose there's any chance of them opening it back again.
Eventually, it's not like the Pueblo Canyon there at TJ Bridge, so eventually they'll get it worked out and reopened. Best bet is just to spend a few weeks studying through all of Doug's websites. There's even a slot canyon he's documented and talks about just downstream of Big Eddy on the Mama Chama or on the Rio Chama.
Yeah,
Yes.
there is. Yeah.
Better.
In fact, the last time we just, a buddy of mine and I ran IKs down the monastery downriver, we went past Big Eddy, and there's a couple different trails down below with some more rapids that a person can carry out and add another 1.5 miles onto the run below Big Eddy.
Where you take out then?
There's a trail.
I know people that have gone past Big Eddy and then taken a small motor and motored out to Abiquiu.
Yeah, and that's kind of dangerous. The last time I did that, I decided I probably would never do that again. The mud flats are pretty bad at some levels. And we got in about 1.5 inches of water all the way across in mud flats and just barely got out of it. I mean, it was very laborious. So on my waterfalls website, New Mexico Waterfalls, you can Google New Mexico Waterfalls and it'll open up this website, New Mexico Waterfalls. And when you scroll down past the first picture and the map, then there's some writing here in yellow that says, does Scott's free topo maps? And you can click on that and there's a lot of topo maps. Well, let's see, that doesn't even have the Chama Canyon Wilderness. I should get that on there. I was going to go to the Chama Canyon Wilderness map. The thing about my maps is they're more detailed than other maps. Let's see.
That's good though. That's really-
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that. Outdoor books. Okay, here's my New Mexico slot canyons. You can Google New Mexico slot canyons and this will come up, and scroll down and okay, here's my maps of the Chama Canyon Wilderness. I'll go to that area that we were just discussing. Yeah, here's a Big Eddy right here. And just around the corner is the overhang rapid. We used to pull out down here at the Adobe ruins, but now that's all closed. But here's a trail called Paleo Trail and Paleo Canyon and the Paleo Rapids, about 1.5 miles downstream from Big Eddy. And Paleo Trail is a pretty nice trail, but you can't pull a big raft out of there. You know, it's too big and heavy. But I do have some pretty extensive maps for that. I want to improve them and have the mileage match Paul Bauer's maps.
So that trail goes up to the road?
Yeah, and before that real curvy part, when you're dropping down into the river on Forest Road 151, there's a real curvy part in there. Up on the flats, you can turn on a little road that drives over to the canyon rim. In fact, it's a great camp spot up there on BLM land or Forest Service land, Forest Service land.
Hey, Doug,
Yes.
Hi, my name's Patty. I just have a quick question, maybe two. I was asking about the Lobato run.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Now, I have not paddled that, but I have walked it. Oh, yeah, I can show you some pictures of that.
Well, the other thing I was going to ask you was, is there a way that I could email, a question or two about some rivers?
Yes, yes, art@DougScottArt.com. Boy, I'm having trouble finding the pictures of the Lobato Gorge up there. I've got some wonderful pictures of that. I thought I was going to be able to go right to it.
I remember you showing it, big conglomerate boulders there. in the
Yeah, they're
river.
big conglomerate boulders. Yeah, and I hiked through there at like 50 CFS and it was actually runnable.
There's a beautiful section up above that, starts in Colorado and comes down, but you get to a point where it's hard to exit the river without crossing private land or even a private bridge, private road.
Well, that bridge that's above the town of Chama, above the Chama River campgrounds, is the right of way is state land, and there's a nice trail for taking out right there. But
Yeah,
the
I'm
set in,
talking about up at the Colorado border up to Catherine Lake, or there's a lake up there, private lake.
Chama Lake.
And that lake has a road going up to it, and that would be a logical point to take out for that upper section, but I'm pretty sure that the road is posted as private rather than a
You know,
forest road.
that would be a set in. That wouldn't, the takeout would be on the paved road.
Well,
I suppose you could take out up there, but there's only about 3 miles of river.
yeah, there's a nice campground point. We tried to get in there last spring and kind of got shut out due to snow and road closures and irate
Yeah,
property
Ye-
owners, but
yeah, that's a nice campground. of
that's
that.
that Lobato Gorge wouldn't be a class 3. That would be a 4.
Yeah, it's heavy 4, maybe even 5.
Yeah, higher flows, it would be a 5, dangerous sieve.
Yeah, yeah, and it's got some, well, it'd be class 5 with some class 6 wood in it. Yeah, sieves.
Yeah, I've heard of a section up there above Chama that is a class 5. That must be it.
That's
Yeah.
it. Oh, there is some interesting things, like for instance, right here is the boiling mud pots up here above Los Alamos, just like Yellowstone. Isn't that something?
I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah, we've got some really nice boiling mud pots. There's more than one. It's at a place on your forest map called Sulphur Canyon, and it's only about a 1 mile walk. It's on the Valles Caldera property.
There's a lot of great resources that Doug has shown us to seek out online. And Doug's got an amazing lifetime of experience, and the fact that he's documented all this to share with us is amazing.
I don't know why I'm such a documenter like that, explorer documentation. I just like to make everything I know public.
It's really
The
wonderful.
public appreciates it.
We appreciate it very much.
And
Gil.
Doug's also
All right,
posted
well-
a few requests for people to join him. So if you're available weekdays, especially, hit up Doug and let him lead you on one of these adventures.
Oh yeah, because it's hard for me to find people